Two there, okay. I want to head out there too. And there was another place too. There's Crown Point. Crown Point's, where's Crown Point? It's in the middle of nowhere. Wow. Who's in Crown Point? Who's in Crown Point? Raise your hand.
I think no one.
Oh, nobody's in Crown Point. Okay.
There's only one student
Hmm.
who's not there.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No.
My cousin, she was doing some research on the vaccines,
Mhm.
and she came across one where it said that they had aborted fetal cells
Yes.
in vaccines.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where I want to say it's perfect, but it's not. And I think that's one of the scary parts is, they try to, how would you say it? I can't really even talk for them because again, it's one of those things where when you do vaccinate, again, what I do is I just offer the information. But one of the things is I always encourage a lot of parents to also look at the aspect of what are you getting a vaccination for? So like say for example, you have the human papillomavirus. You had people of various religious faith who are saying, no, I don't want my child to be inoculated with the human papillomavirus because one, they're only gonna have one partner and one partner alone, and they're not gonna have multiple partners, so why do they need it? But some individuals were like, well, what if they end up with that partner and it fails and they end up having to try to find another partner? Because human papillomavirus is primarily just that aspect of a cancer that develops through the aspect of consistent through sexual relations and everything else. That's one of those things where, again, is that a possibility? Yes and no, but again, that's one of those areas is, are you gonna put someone at risk? Again, that's one of the aspects is, most vaccines, when we give them to children, it's at a time in their life when they can't really make choices. So again, you're primarily going off of what would be the best avenue from the parent side of, is this the best avenue to offer to my child? And some parents are still looking at it as, no, I don't want to. That's where I for me, like I was saying, I don't do the flu shot, I don't do it. I'm just like, usually my body's able to handle it. But again, that's all based upon the hope that I'm healthy, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, I'm doing all those factors. So again, it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, you know what, I don't want to use it. No, I'm hoping that I'm incorporating healthy patterns in my own life so that I'm able to, yeah. But some individuals just look at the outlook of, no, I'm never gonna. Okay, yeah. It's gonna be on YouTube. If anybody is feeling ill or anything, it's okay. I'm not gonna. If you can't make it, then that's fine. I'm not gonna. Yeah. Get better. Who's taking business? Anybody? Or you guys are all in the health field? Maybe. You're in the business field? How's that one?
All right.
It's all right. So you're gonna run your own business in the future? Maybe. There you go. Yeah. I feel jealous of the Chinle campus because I know theirs is right next to like Bash's and Pizza Edge and everything. Like right, I literally was there and I ordered food and everything else and I went back over and it's just literally right next door. Wow. I don't know about let's see, Shiprock. How's Shiprock? You guys are way out. You guys have you have to drive outward, right? I want to see I've never been to the campus. I want to see the campus. It's that futuristic building, right? Maybe? That giant, the towers all set up, I think. Are we ready? Are we good? Okay, let's see, we're ready. I'm the only one still.
Alrighty, so as we look at the brain, one of the big things is at birth, we're looking at 25% volume of the initial adult brain. So right here, this little tiny thing is the brain itself of the child, but as time progresses, we now have a 1-year-old child. Again, 70% volume of an adult brain, and now you have a 3-year-old, which is now 85%. By age 6, they're initially almost at the full capacity of an adult now. So one of the big things is as we look at that, we're saying, okay, as the brain is developing, how is all of this coming into play? So again, we're looking at the brain growth spurt. So you have a 5-year-old, preteen, teen, 20-year-old. Again, one of the things you're looking at is maturation. So one of the things you're looking at is saying, okay, as it's maturing, we know that all these different aspects are going to come into play. They're learning of language and environmental stimulation. So as we look at environmental stimulation, we're looking at all these different factors. So now we have the brain. So I don't know if you guys ever remember Pinky and the Brain. I think you guys know. Really? Okay. So this is the frontal lobe. We have the parietal lobe, which is located right in this region, and then you have the occipital lobe, which is back here, and then you have the temporal lobe right in this region. So one of the big things you're looking at is occipital lobe looks at visual information. So say, for example, you see something, it sparks portions of your brain, you see it, it sends it where? Back here. Temporal lobe is utilized for hearing and language. So right in this region is your temporal lobe. So again, that's where we always look at the aspects of getting injuries to the brain, again, it can impact those avenues. So now you have the parietal lobe, touch and spatial. So those are all the things that you can feel, the sensations, as well as I know that if I step forward, there is a floor right here. How many have ever done that? Say, for example, you're coming down the stairs, and in your mind, you thought you saw a stair, and then you're just like, and everybody's looking at you like, there's no stair right there. And you're like, I knew that. Again, you're hoping there's not any damage to your parietal lobe, but in addition to that, and I'm pretty sure there's none, it's just one of those things where your spatial recognition. Again, babies are starting to incorporate that. So now you have the frontal lobe right here. So now you have Phineas Gage, not Phineas and Ferb, Phineas Gage. So Phineas Gage is an individual who was working one day on some level of pipe fitting and everything else. All of a sudden, boom, right through, pipe comes through, sitting in there. This was a person who initially had huge inhibitions, was a churchgoer, was married, faithful to his wife, all these different things, perfect in the community. That went through, they took it out. Now suddenly, he was a heavy drinker, he cheats on his wife, and all these different things. This is responsible, your frontal lobe is responsible for higher levels of thinking. This is your reasoning. This is the things that you do. Say, for example, if you're going to pick out the outfit for tonight or even throughout the week and everything else, that's your higher level thinking. And then you have speech recognition. So as you're talking to a person, you're able to say, okay, I can formulate words. I can formulate words, and I can think ahead of time. I can be able to say they, there. I can say there, and there. And I know the differentiations. over there. That's mine over there. And then they are over there. And then what else? I think I went through all of them. So within that, you learn to differentiate all those different factors. How? Learning it all throughout your life. So now, molding of the brain. If you look up here, you have the newborn, 3 months, 15 months, 2 months. So this is where the molding begins. But notice this picture. One is of an image of an individual who is normal in a normal home. The one on the right is extreme neglect. This is where an individual had suffered neglect overall, and you notice this portion and this portion. So these are the ventricles. As well as if you notice the outer perimeter, what happened? The one on the right, what happened? It shrunk. So it's one of the big things we realize. We realize, and this is where I had an individual ask me, they said, one, can a child suffer from PTSD? What do you think? Yeah, we know that now. There are still counselors out there who are saying, no, they cannot. They cannot suffer from PTSD. And I'm like, really? The kid I was working with a while back, that was pretty bad PTSD. Because one of the big things is we notice that what? The severe deprivation, the sensories. So again, that's one of the big things you're always looking at. But again, your brain has a level of plasticity. It can maneuver. It can still reawaken other portions. Because one of the big things is as you're creating more and more, you want to create as much neuronal activity as possible. So brain modification. So if you notice here, this is birth. Little kid. 6 years, 14 years. Again, the brain starts to change. It starts to send off all the different areas, and this is where you have differentiation. So differentiation is one, the specialized structure and function begins to change, and also allows for certain selections. And then it has a level of pruning. So the pruning primarily takes place where one, certain factors are not needed, get rid of that, continue moving on. Because if it just kept doing that, it would just keep growing and growing, and you have a huge brain. You don't want that. But one of the big things you're looking at and saying, okay, it's going to prune, it's going to get rid of certain stuff. So now, this is a healthy brain and an abused brain. So this is from the top down. So you have the temporal lobes, where are the temporal lobes? Right in this region, right all the way across. So now, activation. Right in here, you have an individual. What is happening? None of us connected, right? What do you think is happening though? It's not activating. And that's one of the things we're looking at. We're saying, okay, this portion is not activating. Versus this portion where all parts of the brain are lighting up. Because there was an age-old saying that one, you only use 10% of your brain. How many actually believe that? Now we realize, no. I don't know where that saying started from. We're looking at like, really, 10%? That's a small portion. I said, you're constantly, your brain is consistently firing off. So now, these are the myelination. So myelin, you have the fatty insulating substances, and that's all happening. But again, all of this, again, begins to formulate as time progresses within the baby. So motor development. Now we're going to look at milestones. So babies first learn simple skills and then combine them. So again, that's systems of action. So the baby is able to say, yes, these are things I'm going to begin to incorporate in my everyday life. Within that, they begin to walk, at a later time, fly. We realize that their little legs are still trying to catch up with their giant heads. They're trying to say, okay, this head region is very heavy, and within that, it makes balancing kind of scary. How many have ever, and I've seen that happen before. There was a young individual that I was working with, and this child, the mother was holding up the child. This child was sitting upwards. And then what happened? The kid started noticing it. Started going like this, started going like that. I'm like, baby, baby, mom, mom, baby. And mom just like, what? Baby. Dunk. And I'm like, I'm glad it's carpeting. I'm glad there's carpeting. That's all I was like, yes, there's carpeting. You're good. There's really soft carpeting, so the baby was just, but the baby also started signaling like, and I'm like, baby, baby. It was horrible. But within that, you also begin to look at maturation. So according to Thalen, normal babies develop the same skills in the same order because why? They're all around one another. They're around other babies. So they're visually mirroring other kids. So they're mirroring all the way around. And they also have the same physical challenges. So they're like, okay, that's a baby. I'm a baby. We're both babies. We don't know what we're doing. And one of the things is that even if you notice children, what do they have? They have their own little language. It's amazing. They'll kind of talk with one another and they'll just start laughing. And I'm like, what are they saying? And so then I'll sit with them and I'm like, what are you guys saying? And then they start telling me the same thing, and I'm like, really? And I don't even know what they're saying half the time, but you know, it helps. So this is where I'm talking about depth perception. So the baby on the right, if you notice, the baby is starting to test out what's there. It's a glass. So if you took Psych 111, you'll see this picture, but if not, again, it is there for reference. So the baby is right here. It's glass this way. But if you know the patterning, it's all the same. The baby's trying to figure out what is there. And that's very dangerous because, again, how many parents do we actually say, hey, you know what, if you have stairs, make sure you have that fence there? A lot of parents are like, what? No, it's a lot of work. It's expensive. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, the baby's just going to go, dunk, 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 dunk. And I said, I don't want that. Because again, one of the things is they're going off of feedback from who? The caregiver, the parents. Because I've seen parents, you know, they'll look at their child, they'll figure it out. I'm like, oh my gosh. That's when you just wish they weren't parents. That's one of the things I always wish sometimes. I'm like, why are you guys parents? I can't tell you you can't be parents, but there's times you come across individuals and you're like, oh. Or how many have ever seen that? And I'm pretty sure you've seen that. Let's see, what would be a good example? Where you see parents not even care about their child, but you see their child just crawling off somewhere and you're just like, are you gonna? And then when you tell them what's gonna happen, they glare at you, they give you the native glare, they like, they're angry with you. Yeah, they're like, what do you know? What do you know? And I'm like, well, that's gonna happen. And again, it's one of those things. Because again, you also have babies who are sitting in those bashes bags. I always say these bashes a lot. So they're sitting in those little tiny carts. But what happens? They don't know what's down there. They're just kind of like trying to figure out life. And all of a sudden you just see them fall. And I'm like, why didn't you see that? Again, it's one of those things where a lot of parents don't even take this into consideration. So now, if there are chances to explore the surroundings, motor development is more likely to be normal. So now you have Giselle conclude that one, children are initially performing certain activities so long as that when they're ready and they're initially being trained for it. But one of the things is even though you try to train them and say, okay, I need you to do this, I need you to do this. Again, one of the things is it's until they're ready. That's one of the uniquenesses. It's until they're ready to say, okay, I'm going to take it. They're very stubborn. So touch and pain. So touch seemed to be the first sense to develop. That's where a child is freaking out over everything. You literally pick him up, and you're like, oh my gosh. Within that, you have the neonatal period. But as time progresses, they also begin to smell and taste. That's where you have the aspect of pleasant odors. That's where they're looking and saying, okay, I'm taking this in, doesn't smell right. That's where they also start to develop the fact that, one, they themselves also stink. That's where you have babies who are looking at it in terms of, I pooped, it stinks to me, and I'm gonna hide. I've met numerous kids where they're like, I'm gonna hide, because it stinks and I need to get away from parent who said ew and everything else. But again, that's one of the big things you're always looking at and saying, okay. So again, preference for who? The fragrance of the mother's breast. Because one, it's a survival mechanism. It's a hearing. It's functional before birth. That's the reason why we tell parents to talk to their children, even while they're in the womb. In addition to that, you have auditory discrimination, which develops very rapidly. Sight, primarily looking at binocular vision. They're using both eyes to focus. They're starting to see things. They're testing out their eyes. They're looking at it and saying, okay, I can see. Primarily, they're looking at it from it reaches the 20/20 level by about month 6. But within that, you also have infant mortality. This is where individuals, and I think that's one of the big things we're always looking at. Let's see, going back. SIDS, right in here. 2,323. This is primarily back in 2006. It's the only known recent aspect that they look at 10 leading causes. But again, you also have birth defects. You have low birth weight, and you have maternal complications. Infant mortality again. Disparities in healthcare are considered the reason for and the difference in regards to positive care. And a lot of times, a larger number of teenagers are giving birth at a given lower rate. Why? Why do you think that's happening? Primarily, is their body fully developed throughout their teenage years? What do you think? Not necessarily, right? Again, it's still developing, but in addition to that, their diet, what do you think their diet primarily consists of, besides Monster and Hot Cheetos? What else does their diet primarily consist of? Whatever mom and dad provides for them too, right? In addition to that, are they highly hormonal? How many have teenage nieces, nephews, or even sisters? So during that time, are they highly hormonal? Yeah, there's fluctuation, and you're like, was that like that? And you're asking all these questions, but again, would I be able to take care of a child when I was a teenager? And you're like, no. But in addition to that, what happens? A lot of them are giving birth at a young age, but they're giving birth in succession. So in other words, they're having a birth, having a baby, and then they're getting what? Pregnant again. And so you're seeing these patterns, and it's like, wow, there is no, and I think last class that we looked at that, the aspect of letting your body rest. And they're not letting their body rest. And I think it's one of the big things you're always looking at is the aspect of possible infant mortality. So low birth weight in regards to SIDS. So low birth weight can impact the child. So if you notice how tiny that baby is, look how tiny the toes are. They're tiny. You look at your own hand and compare that. That's how tiny. And again, they're going to be incubated. They're going to be an incubator. Because one, it has to be, the baby has to slowly develop inside out, everything else, and that's very dangerous. My sister works as a charge nurse at Flag Medical, and she works with the PEDS unit. And so within that, she'll see different aspects of those too. And it's pretty impactful. You have kids who come in regards, and we're talking about cocaine, you're talking about all these different aspects, and that's what they're seeing is kids coming in addicted to meth, addicted to all these different aspects. And it's very unique. You have kids who are even addicted to cocaine from the moment they're birthed. And so when that happens, what do they have to do? They have to, one, taper the baby off. But they also have to give small doses as well to allow the baby to taper off. Yes?
Yeah, I seen a video on YouTube where if the mother is using while pregnant and she goes in for help, they won't just take her off,
Mhm.
they'll still give her the drug
Mhm.
because the baby is gonna suffer from withdrawals in the womb until the baby is born and.
Oh, yeah.
And when you hear a baby cry, who's dependent, it is the most blood-curdling scream ever. You're like, oh my gosh, ah. And it's not the same as the kids that's crying in back of me. It was just that, it's like, ah. And what do parents do? Oh, I dropped them off at the hospital, they're there, I need to go get my drug and my fix and everything else. And you're like, baby, what about baby? You guys have. It's like, wow. So now, when an infant dies in a family from SIDS, later born children in that family also have a 2 to 4 time risk. I keep thinking it's the one
It's scary.
it's the one, I don't know if you guys are, there's this one, I don't know, you guys can't see it, but it's the one that's just dark. Is no one scared by that? I'm afraid like literally somebody in the background is just gonna move and, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Nobody's frightened by that?